Johnny Carson revealed 9 Golden Age guests who are actually evil. For over 30 years, Johnny Carson welcomed America's brightest stars into living rooms across the country. His easy smile, charm, and impeccable timing made him a national treasure. Audiences believed they were watching ordinary conversations with extraordinary people, sharing laughs like old friends. But behind the camera, the reality was far darker. Carson was a master observer. According to his closest collaborators, he maintained a mental blacklist of guests he considered not just difficult, but genuinely dangerous, cruel, or abusive. He tolerated eccentricity, quirks, and nervous energy, but he could not stomach cruelty, manipulation, or abuse of the powerless. This is the story of the 9 Golden Age celebrities Johnny secretly despised, and the shocking behavior that made him question their public personas. 1. Joan Crawford. When Joan Crawford appeared on The Tonight Show in 1970, viewers were captivated by her poise, elegance, and charm. On screen, she was perfection personified. Every gesture, every word polished to glittering precision. But backstage, she was something entirely different. Staff members recalled meticulous, controlling, and downright cruel behavior. Every detail mattered to Crawford. Lighting had to be exact, studio temperature set to precisely 67 degrees, her chair positioned at a perfect angle. Nothing could be off. She even brought her own makeup team, disregarding the show's seasoned professionals. And yet, the worst was how she treated the junior staff. One young production assistant delivering water accidentally entered Crawford's dressing room at the wrong moment. Witnesses described an outburst so intense it froze the hallway outside. Crawford reportedly called the assistant brainless, and cruelly suggested she find work in a brothel where incompetence might be an asset. Security had to intervene, and Carson's producer refused to fire the young woman, creating tension throughout the taping. When the cameras rolled, Crawford's performance was mechanical. Every laugh rehearsed, every anecdote timed to perfection. Off-camera, she returned to a cold, stone-faced silence, giving the impression of a statue rather than a human being. Carson, known for putting guests at ease, struggled to connect authentically. After the show, he reportedly told Ed McMahon, "I've interviewed corpses with more personality." Christina Crawford's memoir, Mommy Dearest, revealed Joan's alleged abuse of her children. Proof, Carson noted privately, that he had seen her true self long before the public ever did. 2. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra, OL Blue Eyes, was the epitome of charm on camera. His rapport with Johnny Carson appeared effortless. Smooth jokes, playful banter, and a magnetic presence that seemed to make the host's job easy. Audiences saw a relaxed, witty entertainer, and ratings soared. But behind the camera, Sinatra's charisma masked a far darker reality. Sinatra never traveled alone. His entourage was a highly visible force, more like personal enforcers than assistants, looming over the crew and staff like silent guards. Cameras rarely captured the intimidation they spread, but backstage it was palpable. Crew members spoke of the constant tension. Someone could not make a prop ready fast enough, a cue misread, or a passing remark taken out of context, and Sinatra would erupt. It wasn't subtle. Physical confrontations, public shouting, and verbal abuse were reportedly common. One taping escalated dangerously when a floor manager, attempting to keep the show on schedule, reminded Sinatra about the 3-minute warning. Sinatra grabbed him by the tie, snarling, "Nobody tells me when I go on." Staff froze. Some feared for their safety. Carson, watching from his office, felt the weight of the moment. Canceling the segment seemed increasingly reasonable. Only a reminder of the show's ratings and the potential public fallout persuaded him to let it continue. Even during calmer moments, Sinatra's manipulative tendencies were evident. He could charm, cajole, and flatter, but these were tools to maintain control. He carefully orchestrated who spoke to whom and when, and crew members often reported a pervasive feeling of surveillance. Even casual jokes or minor mistakes could trigger fear. Carson respected Sinatra's talent but privately noted how power and fame could shield cruelty from the public eye, allowing intimidation to masquerade as charisma. 3. Orson Welles. Orson Welles, a legend in cinema, carried a reputation for brilliance that preceded him. On The Tonight Show, he dazzled audiences with his intellect, anecdotes about film, and larger-than-life personality. Yet behind the scenes, Welles treated the show as his personal stage, where rules, timing, and staff boundaries seemed irrelevant. Carson's team often prepared meticulously for Welles' appearance, anticipating improvisation, tangents, and unpredictable behavior. But preparation only went so far. Welles would cross out carefully prepared questions, ignore cues, and even attempt to direct camera angles from his chair. One segment intended to last 7 minutes stretched to 25, forcing the crew to scramble and cut other guests entirely. Colleagues recalled the anxiety Welles inspired. Stagehands and producers tiptoed around him, wary of triggering an outburst or provoking a creative rant. Despite the stress, Carson maintained composure on camera, skillfully steering conversations and laughing at Welles' clever but domineering remarks. Yet privately, he described Welles as a cautionary tale of talent eclipsed by ego, noting that true genius was measured not only by creativity, but by respect for others' time, effort, and humanity. Behind Welles' charm and wit was a man who demanded adoration. Staff recounted his insistence on constant praise, complaints about the set's lighting, and extended tangents on topics irrelevant to the show. One producer admitted spending half an hour off-camera negotiating with Welles about the order of questions and camera shots. Carson often felt caught between managing the chaos and preserving the dignity of the production. In essence, Welles' brilliance was inseparable from his ego. The Tonight Show became a microcosm of Hollywood's paradox. Incredible talent, but only when unrestrained by accountability. Carson understood that audiences never saw the stress, fear, and improvisational gymnastics required to keep the show running smoothly. For Bette Davis was formidable, sharp, commanding, and witty. On-screen, she projected confidence and intelligence. Off-screen, her brilliance could become a source of intimidation. She had a way of dominating conversations, interrupting fellow guests, and scrutinizing staff for even minor errors. One particularly tense incident involved a cue card holder who moved slightly slower than Davis expected. She erupted in a verbal tirade, berating the young assistant with wit as sharp as a blade. Carson intervened quietly but firmly, reminding her, "On this show, we speak to everyone with respect, or not at all." Staff recalled that even this brief confrontation left the room tense for the remainder of the taping. Davis's backstage behavior was consistent with stories from other studios. Her staff often prepared exhaustively, anticipating potential outbursts or sudden mood swings. Yet her brilliance was undeniable, and Carson respected that. He admired her sharp mind and comedic timing but drew clear boundaries, refusing to allow intimidation to harm the crew. Beyond individual incidents, Davis's presence left a lingering effect. Staff described a sense of nervous anticipation whenever she arrived on set, meticulously arranging her dressing room and reviewing her lines while keeping everyone at a calculated distance. Carson navigated these situations with the subtle diplomacy that marked his career, balancing the needs of the show with the well-being of his team. 5. Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney's career spanned decades, from a beloved child star to a revered Hollywood veteran. Yet, in his later years, troubling behavior began to overshadow his legacy. Staff reported inappropriate actions, including unwanted touching, suggestive remarks, and overfamiliar behavior with young female assistants. Carson, a stickler for professionalism, found himself personally intervening. He apologized to staff, clarified boundaries, and monitored Rooney's tapings closely. Over time, Rooney's appearances were strategically scheduled to minimize disruption, balancing audience nostalgia with workplace safety. Colleagues recalled an incident where Rooney reportedly cornered a young assistant in a hallway, making a suggestive comment. Carson, upon learning about it, confronted Rooney privately and made clear that such behavior would not be tolerated. The assistant later noted that Carson's swift action made her feel protected and respected, a rare moment of moral authority in Hollywood's often permissive culture. Rooney's duality, a charming entertainer adored by fans and a man capable of harassment behind the scenes, highlighted the tension between public perception and private reality. Carson's careful handling of the situation exemplified his commitment to ethics, demonstrating that star power could never excuse abuse. 6. Zsa Zsa Gabor. Zsa Zsa Gabor was the very definition of glamour, and her public persona dazzled audiences. But behind the curtain, she demanded near-impossible conditions that tested even the most seasoned Tonight Show staff. Her demands included exact flower arrangements, precise lighting angles, specific ice cube sizes, and brand-specific cosmetics. During one taping, the makeup department had to source her preferred foundation from Beverly Hills mid-show. Carson personally intervened, soothing Gabor and ensuring the taping could continue, but staff were left physically and emotionally drained. Gabor's diva behavior extended to timing and scheduling. She frequently arrived late, expecting adjustments to the show's flow without consideration for others. Crew members described the tension as palpable. The air backstage often felt like a battlefield of stress and anticipation. Even minor infractions could provoke immediate criticism. One assistant recalled Gabor scolding a crew member for placing flowers 2 inches too far to the left. Though seemingly trivial, the incident caused a ripple effect, creating anxiety and low morale throughout the studio. Carson's patience with Gabor was exceptional, but he drew the line at disrespect and dysfunction. Behind the glamour, he saw the human cost of fame, the strain it put on staff and the chaos concealed from the public. Gabor's case illustrated the fine line between star power and destructive entitlement in Hollywood. 7. Shelley Winters. Shelley Winters was a powerhouse of intensity. Her dramatic flair and willingness to speak her mind made for memorable television, but also created high-stress situations for staff. While her honesty was respected, her unpredictable temperament could turn an interview into a tense confrontation in minutes. Staff would prepare rigorously, fragile props removed, cameras double-checked, and crew mentally braced for sudden outbursts. Winters' passion could be inspiring but exhausting. During one taping, she became visibly agitated over a mispronounced name and launched into a 10-minute rant that forced Carson to pivot on camera while simultaneously signaling producers to adjust timing. Carson respected Winters' honesty, but privately he noted, "Talent is not a free pass for chaos." Even seasoned staff described their anxiety before each appearance, rehearsing responses to potential eruptions. Winters' unpredictability made each taping a psychological exercise in preparation, anticipation, and careful diplomacy. Beyond individual incidents, Winters' presence highlighted Carson's ability to manage human complexity. He valued truth and intensity but demanded that respect for others be maintained. Her appearances exemplified the delicate balance between honoring a guest's personality and protecting the studio ecosystem from disorder. 8. Jane Russell. Jane Russell's early career was marked by glamour and charm, and she was adored by fans for her beauty and poise. Yet as time passed, her backstage behavior became increasingly difficult to tolerate. Russell reportedly expressed extreme political views and made discriminatory remarks toward LGBTQ+ staff, creating a tense and hostile environment. Carson tolerated differences of opinion but drew a firm line at personal attacks. Staff recalled Russell making derogatory comments during rehearsals and tapings, targeting colleagues' identities or lifestyle choices. Her behavior forced Carson to restrict her appearances to preserve the dignity and safety of the studio staff. Despite her talent and on-screen charisma, Russell's backstage conduct demonstrated a key point: fame and beauty could not excuse cruelty. Carson's quiet management of these situations reflected his moral philosophy. Respect, decency, and professionalism outweighed ratings and star power. Colleagues noted that Russell's presence often prompted preemptive preparations. Staff would adjust schedules, anticipate potential remarks, and brief security or assistance on sensitive interactions. This level of anticipation highlighted how celebrity privilege could disrupt not just one taping but the morale of an entire production team. 9. Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis was beloved by audiences for his manic energy, slapstick humor, and philanthropic efforts. But behind the camera, he could be openly disrespectful, controlling, and disruptive. Lewis reportedly touched Carson without permission, berated staff, and dominated conversations, creating a high-tension atmosphere for everyone on set. One staff member recounted Lewis ignoring multiple cues to wrap a segment, arguing about camera angles, and then publicly criticizing a production assistant for adjusting the set incorrectly. Lewis' antics forced Carson to step in repeatedly, balancing on-camera humor with off-camera crisis management. Eventually, Lewis was blacklisted by Carson, a rare and deliberate decision reflecting the severity of his behavior. Public philanthropy and charm could not hide private chaos and abuse. Carson valued talent, but he valued respect, decency, and a safe working environment even more. Lewis' behavior became a textbook example of how fame could shield disruptive, even harmful, conduct from public scrutiny. Carson's handling of Lewis also illustrated the pressures of managing larger-than-life personalities. Every decision balanced ratings, public perception, and staff safety. The juxtaposition between Lewis' public adoration and private misconduct exemplified a recurring pattern in Hollywood, where charm often masked cruelty and entitlement. Carson's blacklist provides a rare glimpse into Hollywood's underbelly. Stars' charisma and fame often concealed cruelty, manipulation, and abuse. Studios and PR machines protected their reputations, leaving only a few insiders, like Carson, to witness and evaluate the truth. For Carson, moral character mattered as much as talent. Abuse of staff, harassment, or mistreatment of the powerless distinguished the difficult star from the truly reprehensible. Johnny Carson was more than a host. He was a gatekeeper, an observer, and a moral compass behind Hollywood's dazzling lights. His private judgments of Crawford, Sinatra, Welles, Davis, Rooney, Gabor, Winters, Russell, and Lewis revealed the side of fame most Americans never saw. He once said, "The camera doesn't just add 10 pounds. It adds a layer of fiction. My job is to see through it." Carson's decades-long blacklist reminds us that behind every starry smile may lie a story no one wants you to know.